This lemon crumble loaf cake is so packed with citrus flavor, yet it doesn't have a drop of lemon juice. How do I do it? I'll walk you through the full recipe. If you've watched my videos on this channel, you know I'm a fan of a good citrus dessert, and this lemon crumble loaf is no exception. So I'll start off by making the crumb that goes on top. It's a simple streusel recipe. So I've got my flour, quite a bit of sugar, because that's going to help develop the crunch as this bakes on top of the lemon loaf. A little bit of baking powder, and I'll grab a pinch of salt. And in addition to adding crunch to this lemon loaf, the crumble adds a great amount of zest. So I'm zesting this entire lemon to go into just the crumble. You know, in some recipes, you just need the juice. In some, you need just the zest, like this one. Did you know you can freeze lemon zest? So what you do is grate it just as I did, and what I like to do is put it in a resealable bag. That way, it sits nice and flat, slides into the freezer, and when you need your lemon zest, you just pull out the bag, crack off a little piece, and away you go. I'll just give this a little stir to work in the zest. Even though it's a lot of lemon zest, it doesn't impart too much bitterness because it doesn't liquefy. All we're adding is some melted butter to make the streusel. And the streusel or crumble is really all about the crunch. Now this is a pretty wet streusel. So it's soft at first, but you want to keep mixing until you no longer see any bits of flour visible. So you'll have some little crumbly pieces, but also some big crumbly pieces too. There we go. Now I'll set this aside so I can make the lemon loaf batter itself. I am using my stand mixer, and I do recommend using either a mixer or electric beaters to really get some structure and volume into your lemon loaf recipe. I'm using the reverse method, which means I start by sifting my dry ingredients, then I add my butter, and then the liquids get added all at once and mixed. It's a simple way to make a cake with a consistent end result, so I really do favor this method. Sometimes sugar is considered a wet ingredient, like when you cream it with butter and it dissolves a little bit, but in this case, we're treating it like a dry ingredient, sifting it in. Some baking powder and half a teaspoon of salt. And I'll give this a good sift. And now it's time to add the lemon zest to this portion of the cake. Another full lemon. If you're measuring, I find it's about a tablespoon of lemon zest. Real lemon flavor comes from the oils within the citrus zest. And that's why putting this quantity in just perfumes this lemon loaf so beautifully. And the reason I add it now is I'm going to take a moment to just mix all these ingredients together. And don't forget, the sugar is in there. And as it mixes with the lemon zest, is going to draw out some of those oils so you get that even distribution of lemon zest itself, but also lemon flavor. Oh, immediately I can smell the citrus. Now it's time to add my butter. I've cut it up into pieces and I let it sit out about 30 minutes. I find that's what it takes. If I've pulled my butter from the fridge and I dice it up, it takes about half an hour to come up to room temperature. Now, here's a question that I get asked a lot. Well, when a recipe says room temperature, what temperature do you actually mean? I'm looking for a moderate, cool-ish room temperature. So 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. So I'll add this all at once. And just like making a pie dough or a scone, I'm cutting the butter into the dry goods. But unlike a pie dough, which I don't want to overmix, this, I want to make sure I mix it until small pieces of butter are no longer visible. All right, that butter is worked in. And it just looks like an even, fine crumb. And now it's time to mix those wet ingredients. I'll start with the eggs. 2 whole eggs. And I add 1 egg yolk, so I'll separate the white. The yolk adds a little extra richness to this recipe, but I've added the yolk really for that lemony color. Now, it may seem counterintuitive, but traditionally, you don't add lemon juice to a lemon loaf batter. And that's for a specific reason. That acidity is so intense in lemon juice that it can curdle the batter and you end up with a crumbly lemon loaf cake. So typically, if you glaze a lemon loaf cake, that's where you would add a little bit of lemon juice, but yet you somehow want to coax out a sense of lemon flavor. So I rely on sour cream. It has acidity to it, but not as much as lemon juice, and it does work into the batter smoothly and easily. If you don't have access to sour cream, to use a nice thick Greek yogurt would work perfectly well. And now a little touch of vanilla. And I'm just looking to loosely combine the wet ingredients, just so they work in faster. You can add them all at once. That's the ease of a reverse method when making a cake just like this. No back and forth, alternating liquids and dry. And now I'll mix it until it's combined, until I no longer see dry ingredients. Then I'll increase the speed to medium and let it go for just about 20 or 30 seconds to build some volume and structure into it. I am going to scrape my bowl just once to get to the dry ingredients right at the very bottom. After that 20 or 30 seconds, you'll see the batter turns a slightly lighter butter yellow color, and that's when you know it's done mixing. There we go. It does make a thick batter. Because of that sour cream, or if you're using yogurt, it's not fluid like a traditional layer cake batter. I've got my loaf pan already greased and I line it with parchment so I can pop it out of the pan after it's had a chance to cool for about 15 or 20 minutes. That way you don't get condensation on the outside of your loaf cake. And you do want to give it a little bit of a spread, just to make sure it's reaching the corners. It will melt a little bit before it starts baking up, so it will fill in any gaps. And now for that crumble topping. Sometimes the butter sets up a little bit, so you can break up those big chunks if you wish. And I just pour this right on top, and then give it a little spread to cover the loaf cake. I know this seems like a lot of crumble for this loaf cake. Oh, but this is what sets this recipe apart. And remember all that lemon flavor that's packed into it. This bakes in a 325 oven, and in a metal pan, it takes 60 to 70 minutes. Because I picked a pretty ceramic pan, something to be aware of is ceramic, whether it's porcelain, terracotta, takes longer to heat up, and then in turn, that takes the batter longer to heat up. And with a pan like this, you may have to add up to 10, even 15 minutes extra bake time if you're using a pretty pan like this. And here it is out of the oven. I love that lift you get to this loaf recipe, and that crumble just sticks right onto it. Now, the finishing touch, you can put a little icing sugar. It's just to create contrast on the crumble a little bit, not add sweetness necessarily. You could, if you really wanted to, add a lemon glaze. Just whisk a little icing sugar and fresh lemon juice together and drizzle it on top, give it a chance to set. Just remember, in addition to adding the acidity from the lemon juice, which is nice, you're also adding a little extra sweetness. So does this crumble loaf need it? I'm gonna say no. Let's slice into it as is. Ooh, it is still just a little bit warm. Look at that beautiful interior. You can hear the crunch of that crumble. Oh yeah. This is truly a fantastic recipe. You know, lemon loaves, anything lemon is totally my style. I really want you to give this recipe a try. Leave your comments below. You know, I'm always coming out with new recipes. I like to hear what you're interested in making, so leave those comments below because I do listen, as you'll see by the upcoming recipes. I'll see you again for something else delicious. Oh my gosh, this is so soft. It is still warm. Oh. Amazing. You have to make this recipe.